Appreciate everybody tuning in today. This is one of those long-form conversations, the kind you throw on while driving, working, or just thinking about the future of this team. No rush today. No quick takes. Just football, perspective, and honesty about where the Dallas Cowboys are right now and where they're headed. I want to start with something that's been sitting heavy with this fan base for a while now, and that's free agency. Because every year, we hear the same language. We like our guys. We believe in development. We're comfortable with the plan. And at some point, comfort becomes the enemy of progress. The NFL is not built for patience unless patience is paired with aggression at the right moments. And the Cowboys, for a long time now, have been choosing safety over urgency. You don't have to blow up your cap. You don't have to chase every shiny name. But when you see clear roster holes, when you see windows opening and closing, you have to act. Fans aren't asking for recklessness. They're asking for commitment. They're asking for proof that winning a championship is more important than winning the balance sheet. That naturally brings us to the quarterback conversation, and I know emotions spike every time this comes up. Dak Prescott has been the face of this franchise for years. He's been productive, he's been durable, and he's been a leader. But the NFL is ruthless, and long-term planning at quarterback is not betrayal. It's responsibility. Drafting a quarterback in the 2026 NFL Draft would not be a signal of panic. It would be a signal of intelligence. The best organizations don't wait until decline is obvious. They prepare while things are still stable. You draft, you develop, you create options. And if the young guy never plays, that's a good problem to have. What you cannot afford is being caught unprepared when the position that matters most suddenly becomes a question mark. As we shift into draft evaluations, one player who keeps popping up is Michigan defensive tackle Rayshon Benny. And this is the kind of name that doesn't trend on social media, but wins you games in December and January. Interior defensive linemen who can hold their ground, disrupt timing, and collapse pockets change everything. They make edge rushers better. They make linebackers cleaner. They make coverage easier. This defense has missed that kind of consistent interior presence. And when you zoom out, it's clear the Cowboys need to keep feeding the defensive pipeline. Edge rushers like our Mason Thomas, Romello Height, and Joshua Josephs all bring different tools, but they share one thing in common. They can get after the quarterback. In today's NFL, pressure is currency. You cannot have enough pass rushers. Rotations matter. Fresh legs matter. Injuries happen. The teams still standing in January are the ones that plan for that reality. The same logic applies to the secondary. Cornerback is no longer a luxury position. It's survival. Colton Hood, Julian Neal, Malik Muhammad. These are modern corners. Athletic, confident, willing to play on an island. The Cowboys have seen firsthand what happens when depth disappears at that position. You don't wait until it's a crisis. You draft early, you draft often, and you let competition sort the rest out. Now let's talk about something fans don't always like to admit out loud: cheering against other teams. When you see Cowboys fans rooting against the Seahawks, it's not hate for the sake of hate. It's understanding how draft positioning works. It's recognizing that your future is tied to things beyond your own record. Long-term thinking is uncomfortable, but it's necessary if you want sustained success. Trade rumors always light a spark, and one that keeps resurfacing is the idea of Dallas making a move for Browns cornerback Denzel Ward. This is not a small conversation. This is money, health, draft capital, and expectation all rolled into one. But elite talent rarely becomes available without complications. If you want to win now, you have to accept risk. The real mistake is refusing to even explore the option. Defense, overall, is where the next big decision lives, especially at coordinator. The defensive coordinator hire is not just about scheme. It's about philosophy. It's about adaptability. It's about leadership, whether it's Matt Burke, a surprise candidate, or even a bold swing like Sean McDermott. This decision will echo for years. The wrong hire stalls progress. The right hire elevates everyone. On offense, the idea of Brian Daboll in Dallas is intriguing for a reason. Creativity matters. Flexibility matters. Quarterbacks need answers when defenses adjust. The Cowboys' offense has been good, but good is not the goal. The goal is resilient. The goal is dangerous in multiple ways. The fit would matter, but the conversation itself tells you something important. Fans want evolution, which brings us to ownership and leadership. Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones are always confident. That's not new, but confidence from leadership only matters if it aligns with results. Cowboys fans don't need promises. They need evidence. Evidence that when the window is open, the organization is willing to push. Re-signing a player like Jadeveon Clowney forces that exact kind of evaluation. A 2-year, $20 million deal with $15 million guaranteed is real money. You have to ask what you're buying: production, presence, leadership, or all three. These are the decisions contenders make carefully but decisively. Looking ahead to 2026 free agency, the big question isn't who will be available. It's whether Dallas will finally shift its identity. Aggressive teams don't wait for perfection. They move when opportunity knocks. And sometimes they create opportunity themselves. Some fans want the Cowboys to mirror the Rams' philosophy. Less attachment to picks, more focus on stars and timing. That approach carries risk, but it also carries trophies. Windows don't stay open forever. You either capitalize or you regret. That's why trade ideas like Rashawn Gary matter. That's why dreaming about a secondary with Minkah Fitzpatrick alongside a drafted talent like Caleb Downs isn't fantasy, it's strategy. It's asking what championship-level defense actually looks like in today's NFL. Even the smaller stories, the trolling, the coaching carousel, the constant movement across the league, serve as reminders. This league does not pause. It does not wait for comfort. It rewards clarity, boldness, and preparation. At the end of the day, this entire conversation comes down to one thing: direction. Are the Dallas Cowboys satisfied with being competitive, or are they obsessed with being champions? Because those two mindsets lead to very different decisions. And that's why this mailbag matters. That's why these conversations matter. And that's why we'll keep having them. The Dallas Cowboys have officially entered a new phase on defense. And it starts with one decision that quietly set the tone for everything that comes next. Christian Parker is now the defensive coordinator in Dallas, coming over from the Philadelphia Eagles, a franchise that has built its recent success on discipline structure, physicality, and adaptability. While much of the early attention has been on Parker assembling his coaching staff and installing his philosophies, that phase will pass quickly. Before long, the spotlight will shift to what truly determines whether those ideas can succeed: the roster. Once that transition happens, it becomes impossible to ignore the reality facing the Cowboys. This defense has holes, and not small ones. The most urgent needs are on the defensive side of the ball, and the front office knows it. Fortunately for Dallas, the 2026 NFL Draft offers a rare opportunity. With 2 first-round picks, the Cowboys are positioned to reshape the identity of their defense in a single night, provided they make the right choices. What makes this moment especially fascinating is how well the Cowboys' needs align with the direction Christian Parker is likely to take the defense. Parker comes from a system that values versatility, players who can wear multiple hats, defenders who can disguise intentions and execute complex responsibilities without sacrificing physicality. This is not a scheme built on specialists alone. It thrives on hybrids, on defenders who can blur positional lines and force offenses to hesitate. In a recent mock draft by Pro Football Sports Network's TJ Randall, Dallas does exactly that. With their first 2 selections, the Cowboys address the spine of the defense by targeting a hybrid linebacker and a true cover corner, 2 positions that define modern NFL defenses. The names attached to those picks are Arvell Reese out of Ohio State and Colton Hood from Tennessee, and together they represent more than just talent upgrades. They represent a philosophical shift. At pick number 12, the Cowboys are projected to select Arvell Reese, a linebacker who, under normal circumstances, would not be expected to still be on the board. Reese is widely viewed as one of the most impactful defensive players in the class, often mocked inside the top 5. His presence at 12 would require a very specific draft day slide, but as Randall notes, it is not impossible. Draft processes evolve, team needs change, and quarterbacks tend to push elite defenders down the board. If Reese is available when Dallas is on the clock, the Cowboys would be staring at a rare opportunity. Reese's appeal lies in how complete his game is. Early in his college career, he spent most of his time operating in the box, reading plays, fitting gaps, and showing a natural feel for traffic and leverage. Then, in 2025, Ohio State began to deploy him more aggressively along the edge, and the results were immediate. Reese showed he could threaten quarterbacks, set the edge against the run, and still drop back into coverage without looking out of place. That combination is exactly what modern NFL defenses crave. For Dallas, the importance of that versatility cannot be overstated. The Cowboys no longer have the luxury of relying on a single defender to be everywhere at once. With Micah Parsons no longer anchoring the defense the way he once did, there's a need for someone who can replicate at least part of that impact. Reese may not be Parsons, but he offers something just as valuable: flexibility. He can play off the ball, rush the passer, and erase mismatches in coverage. He gives Christian Parker options, and options are the currency of good defense. Adding Reese would immediately change how offenses prepare for Dallas. Suddenly, protections become harder to set. Play action becomes riskier. Short and intermediate passing lanes feel more crowded. Reese is the type of defender whose influence extends beyond the stat sheet. His presence alone alters spacing and decision-making, which is often more valuable than any single sack or tackle. As transformative as Reese could be, the Cowboys' work would not be done. Defense is not built solely from the front seven, and Dallas has been reminded of that reality repeatedly in recent seasons. Even before the decision to release Trayvon Diggs, cornerback was already a position of concern. Without him, it becomes a priority. That is where Colton Hood enters the picture at pick number 20. Hood is not the loudest name in the draft, but his game speaks clearly. At 6 feet tall and around 190 pounds, he has the physical profile teams look for on the outside, but what truly sets him apart is his coverage ability. Hood is a sticky defender, the kind of corner who stays connected through routes, who understands leverage, and who rarely panics when the ball is in the air. Randall's mock draft acknowledges that Dallas should remain patient with Siobhan Revel Jr., whose early professional struggles were more about injury recovery than lack of ability. Still, patience does not eliminate need. The Cowboys cannot enter another season thin at cornerback, especially in a conference loaded with elite receivers. Hood provides insurance, competition, and potential stability. What makes Hood such a logical fit is how cleanly he projects into an NFL system. He is comfortable in man coverage, disciplined in zone, and willing to tackle. He plays with confidence, but not recklessness, trusting his technique rather than relying solely on athleticism. In a defense guided by Christian Parker, that discipline matters. Parker's scheme demands corners who can handle responsibility without constant safety help, and Hood fits that mold. Taken together, Reese and Hood would do more than fill holes. They would rebalance the defense. Reese strengthens the middle and the edge simultaneously, while Hood stabilizes the perimeter. Suddenly, Dallas has answers at all three levels. Linebacker speed improves. Coverage flexibility increases. The defense becomes harder to predict and harder to exploit. This is why the 2026 draft looms so large for the Cowboys. With 2 first-round picks, they're not just drafting players. They are choosing an identity. Investing heavily on defense signals a commitment to winning games with balance, to no longer asking the offense to be perfect every week. It suggests an understanding that in January football, stops matter as much as points. There is, of course, no guarantee. Draft picks are projections, not promises. Reese must translate his versatility to the professional level. Hood must adjust to NFL route runners and passing concepts. But the logic behind the selections is sound and the fit is clear. If Dallas executes this plan, the Cowboys enter the 2026 season with a defense that looks faster, smarter, and more adaptable than it has in years. A defense capable of dictating terms rather than reacting. A defense that reflects the vision of its coordinator and the patience of a front office willing to build from the ground up. In the end, That is what makes this moment so compelling. Christian Parker's arrival was only the beginning. The real transformation starts when the Cowboys turn draft capital into foundational players. If Arvell Reese and Colton Hood are those players, Dallas will not just be filling needs.